Reading the title of this video, you might be under the impression that this is just another YouTube art challenge but with a delightful Animal Crossing coat of paint. And I guess that it is. But this video goes a bit deeper than that, and I'm not just talking about the deep cut that sent me to minor injuries during this project, although, yeah, that happened. This video isn't really about creating impressive art either, although I will admit what I have managed to create kinda eats, not gonna lie. This video is about a creative journey with a focus on acknowledging my feelings throughout the process, prioritizing having fun, valuing connection, and trying my best to work with what I've got. Especially since what I've got is a non-neurotypical brain that appears to actively rebel against structure and yet seemingly cannot function without structure. The chaos, it runs deep. Anyway, hi, I'm Jamie, I'm a creative. Also, I'm considered evil and sick by the soon-to-be president of the US of A. What a time to be alive, huh? And I've got up to 7 days to create 3 entirely unique craft projects to spice up my new flat, with Animal Crossing serving as my muse. Will I complete all 3 in time? Or was I a little bit overambitious? Take your bets, folks. Well, if I had any hopes of pulling this off, I was gonna need a plan, and a bloody good one at that. Speaking of said plan, well, why don't I just show it to you and talk you through my ideas, because it actually leads perfectly into today's sponsor, Milanote. What is Milanote? Milanote is a tool for organizing creative projects, and I've actually been using it for years. It's like having an infinite whiteboard at your fingertips, but with all the benefits of being digital without overwhelming you with tools you're never going to use. Most importantly, it's really easy to get the hang of. I'll put a link in my description and pinned comment for you to check it out for free. So here's my board for this project, and this is like the hub page. On the left, I listed out a whole load of ideas of what I could make. I wanted to try and make something upcycled, make a display art piece, and maybe something functional. Then I set up my top 3 ideas here, and I can dive into individual boards I built to plan and explore each project. What I love about Milanote is that you can just click and drag images onto your boards from other windows. I can't be the only one that finds Pinterest barely usable anymore with all the ads and AI art, so when I'm browsing, I can just drop in images as I go. You can also install the Milanote web clipper to your browser so you can just capture images in one click. I also really like using the draw feature to make handwritten annotations. It really adds a personal, speedy touch, but dropping in a note is super easy too. You can click and drag, or just double tap, and oh boy, I sure do love color coding my notes. So the first project involved upcycling my old IKEA mopper. I wanted to make it look like a chunk of excavated rock based on an Animal Crossing New Leaf dig site wallpaper, and then maybe add a patch of grass on top that could be potentially switched out with each season, you know, like the grass changes in the game. Very cute, right? For my second project, I wanted to make something I could hang in my kitchen window, and I thought it'd be adorable to be based off of Animal Crossing's stylized fish icons. I dropped in a little ref for these hanging bead decor things, and I thought it would be cool to work with embroidery, beads, and bells for this one. And my third project idea was to make coasters based off of some of my favorite villagers. And you can see here, I've made different categories for the look dev, color palette, and potential execution with different materials. And I gotta say, as a person with aphantasia, meaning I cannot consciously see images in my mind's eye, I cannot stress how much of a game changer it is to be able to externalize the visual process. Using Milanote has genuinely helped me make sense of my ideas and to make connections in real time. If you don't fancy making a whole board from scratch, Milanote has more than 100 built-in templates so you can get creating straight away. Also, all my boards look neat now, but I definitely had a chaos dump board, you know, sometimes we gotta get all the ideas out there and let it be messy before we can make sense and refine them. Best thing of all, Milanote is completely free to use. There's no trials, no nightmare trying to manage subscriptions, so I really do have to commend Milanote on that good business practice. So sign up for free today and give it a try by following the link in my description or the pinned comment. Thanks again for supporting me, Milanote. Now let's get on with attempting to make these masterpieces. Day one, and I started off organized? Look at this pro making an outline of how I thought my week would plan out. Pinned to the board in my kitchen in the hopes I would actually look at it each day. Foreshadowing. Also, little did I know how foolish it truly was to expect everything to be done in 5 consecutive days when I also had other shit going on, let alone the spanners in the works and the things that got in the way, but I digress. We'll see how that all falls apart later. Today's plan was to go out and get supplies, prep the IKEA mopper, the mini drawers, and stain them with wood dye. I also had the option to start sculpting the fossils if I had time. Emphasis on the if. I've also now taken to drawing on my hand again to remind me of things, because if I make a note on my phone, that shit may as well not exist. Anyway, first stop was TK Maxx. I noticed they seem to have a lot of beads at the moment, which might serve as a backup for my hanging fish project if I can't find the glass beads that I've had for over a decade now. They are somewhere, I swear. I almost got tempted by these little Halloween ones, partially because of the ghost-shaped organizer, partially because, what the fuck are these? I also did need a new set of acrylic paints, and I found some, but I don't know, man. Approved premium quality when it does not say who it was approved by. Little bit sus. Next up was a favourite independent art shop of mine. I also checked out what felt sheets they had in stock for the embroidery project. Seemingly, they only stock a vibrancy that burns one's retina slightly. A strong vibe for sure. Then I picked up some primer with a thought of, like, after I've dyed the words, I can prime it for the paint. And I also invested in some decent sculpting tools, because up until that point, I had been sculpting things with dental tools, and I need some smooth carves in my life. Oh, incoming message from Jamie. That took so much longer than I thought it would. I just spent ages in the art shop just looking at my phone being like, is this the right thing? Can't find this thing. You're all busy. So, and the library is closed by the time I got out. And it's also raining now. And I'm gonna go back and sand this mop. Alright, I got back to the flat. My poor iPhone 13 is struggling in this dim lighting, so overhead lights are on full blast, which burns my eyes even more so than the sight of the Artex ceiling, so pity me. Anyway, I got out my box of miscellaneous DIY shit and I was ready to go. I had read up on prepping the plywoods, which is what the drawers are made out of, and it recommended giving the surface some prep with P120 sandpaper, which I didn't have, so I kind of alternated between a bit of P180 and mostly the P100. Breaking the law, I guess. Then I realized, hang on, I should probably not be inhaling fine plywood dust, so I grabbed myself a seasonally appropriate mask to protect. Once that was done, it was time to apply the wood dye that I had knocking about in the shade Georgian Medium Oak. You have to say it like that, that's the rule. I poured some of that into a pot that I had recycled from a takeaway, and then I thought, hey, it might be an idea to actually read the application instructions rather than just going for it. Well, look at that bamboozlement. It said to apply the dye by rubbing it in with a cloth, which I considered for a moment, and then promptly decided to ignore, because I thought I knew better than the instructions, apparently. I'm a skilled painter, I thought. These instructions are probably because most people aren't well versed with a brush, I thought. Also, my meds had worn off by that point, and the impulsivity was, making a bit of a statement, and oh, Jamie. Yeah, it was looking a bit patchy. I felt real silly, so I got myself a beer to swallow my shame and admit, yeah, okay. Maybe there was a reason it said to apply with a cloth. So I did that for the next box, and wow! Would you look at that? Way less patchy, you absolute goober. More than happy to admit when I was wrong, and I was wrong on this one. Lesson learned, but I guarantee I'll do some shit like this again. Anyway, reflecting on how all that made me feel, I actually really enjoyed the process. It was quite meditative, which I found interesting because a lot of the time I have trouble slowing my brain down. Having a manual task where I knew what I was doing and I could see the progress being made in front of me, it was really satisfying. Made me feel good. The final thing to end the day, I opened up that surface primer that I bought, and it didn't actually say anywhere on the packaging that it was an opaque white colour. I thought it was going to be clear, or at least dry clear, but then I opened it up and I was like, damn, that looks pretty opaque. So I did a little test patch to see if it would dry clear, but gotta be honest, I'm pressing X to doubt on that one. I think I might not be able to use this. It is day 2, and it is 11:15, and I still haven't started work yet. It's one of those mornings I promised I'd report on when this happens, because it does. Chaotic brains and stuff. Oh, it was always going to be like up until 11 o'clock was going to be like basically, unless you can get up at 8 o'clock and get like 40 minutes of work in straight away, then you're not going to do much this morning. But I've done a bit of a workout, I've stretched. But for the last while, I've been just looking for my necklace. I feel like something's missing without wearing it. I've been looking everywhere for it. And literally, I was looking on the sofa, and this gold chain, it's like, oh, you're looking for your necklace? Here's one that you weren't looking for, though, but you didn't know that it was missing? It's also broken, so I can't do much with it, and also I don't really wear gold, so... Right, okay, stop looking for your thing now. You need to go and do stuff. Just deal with it.
You're just gonna be, there's a part of you missing today.
Anyway, yeah, time kept escaping me, but now, fueled on some delicious vegan Thai green curry, I set off to my community-run, not-for-profit members club. The world is a very scary place right now. Fascism is on the rise, so I highly encourage you to look into building your own safe spaces, because the government ain't gonna do it for you. A place where you can run your own events, have a workspace where you won't be kicked out if you don't buy a £4 coffee every 2 hours, where you won't get hate crimed, things like that. Because that's what me and my community have been doing, and honestly, it's changed our lives in the most wonderful way. Community stuff is gonna be a reoccurring thing throughout everything I do, but, I'll quit my yapping on it for now because I've got a project to do, but just saying, you can do it. So even though this was day 2, I'm counting this as a half day because, well, I did a half day of work. First thing I did was a supply check because I really wanted to try and use what I already have versus buying more materials. The felt I owned was less abrasive on the eye, but I was undecided of whether that was a positive or a negative. But the beads, the bells, the embroidery stuff, that was all here, ready to go. Nice. I sat down to go through my boards to review the next steps, and I wanted to paint these drawers to look like the dig site wallpaper, specifically from New Leaf, because it has all the cute little fossils exposed, and I wanted to fuck about with sculpting those, and I just love how characterful this is. I feel like as Animal Crossing has improved in its graphics, there's been this emphasis on realism that I honestly find really boring. Like, compare this dig site wall from New Leaf to New Horizons. There's just something so charming and iconically Animal Crossing about the more stylized and graphic approach taken in older games. The new updated version is full of detail, sure, but I feel like it's lost some of that playfulness. It looks like it could have come from any game, and I don't like that. I don't like it. Anyway, I really hope the next installment will return to these roots because I think it's just so much more creative and delightful, and I want to be delighted. Thank you, Nintendo. Please take notes. Right, back to actually working on the project, because it's all about to go a bit wrong. So I thought I should start with making the grass topper because I basically had 3 options. Either I could make it out of air dry clay, make it out of clay that I could bake in the oven, or felt. And I thought felt was the best option, but I thought, I might collect a bit of dust and be difficult to clean, so I went with the clay. And I thought, I've got this old air dry clay knocking about, which, to quote my friend, looks like chorizo sausage paste in a bag.
Ah yes, the forbidden sausage paste. We all crave it.
I thought, hey, I could use this and get rid of it, because I don't really like using it. But I didn't want this to be cemented to the top, so instead of directly going onto the top, I tried to use cling film to put a barrier between the two. And as you can tell by my body language, I was not a fan of the texture of this. I should have trusted my gut. There's a reason I haven't been using that clay. I should have quit right there. I don't like it. It was drying on my hands. It felt, ick. But I wanted to persevere because I'm an idiot. But look, I can say I gave it a good go. It wasn't working. It wasn't smoothing out. So I finally made the executive decision to abandon ship and use the Super Sculpey clay instead. I briefly considered some foam board, but it was just too thick for my liking. But by that point, after the repeated failures, my brain was a bit frazzled, so I instead sketched out the areas of segments that I would need to paint on the mopper, and even tested out a little bit of paint by painting out the yellow layer. But another problem struck. I'd left all my new brushes that I bought at home, so at that point, I just called it a fucking day. Sometimes you just get days where things just really don't go to plan. But it would have been good if I could have planned for that rather than, what did I do? A super tight schedule with not much room for flexibility. Oh my god, Jamie! Day 3 began with miserable weather. So to add delight to my world, I started off strong by wearing cute coloured glasses. See, look at that. So much more fun than grey, right? And before I started work, I took a moment and enjoyed sipping hot tea from my flask. And I watched some trains go about their business for a while. Bloody lovely. Anyway, I'm back at my community-run, not-for-profit members club. And as I was setting things up, I took the opportunity to practice some of my shuffle dancing, because yeah, your boy is learning how to do Running Man at the moment. It always takes me so long to learn any kind of dance, but hey, I found that the embarrassment of getting it wrong is massively outweighed by how fun it is to move my body. But also, I think I've got the Charleston, relatively down now, so love that for me. Anyway, I had a lot to do, and I did not make a list. So what did I do? Dive straight into one of my tasks, you say? No, I fucked about with trying to make myself a necklace because I was like, I still haven't found my necklace and I feel like something is missing from my soul. Okay, I took some time to reflect on my overwhelm and I broke some stuff down and realized the main task I needed to do was tackle the paintwork, and I was not doing it because I was worried about mixing up the exact colors and then not having enough for a second coat of paint, so I was just avoiding doing it. In the end, I was just like, look, I'm probs overthinking this, and, we're not going for perfectionism here, remember? Who cares if there's a slight color streak in that, on the second coat? It doesn't matter. So I put on some Joseph Fisher and just went for it. The YouTube algorithm has, really been serving me up some gold recently. His videos are fucking hilarious. Anyway, this first color I mixed up was like a liquid dark chocolate, and it was incredibly smooth and satisfying to paint with. I've been mixing some sample wall paint with my Ancient airbrush paint. Ancient isn't a brand, they're just like over a decade old at this point. And I'm using them because that's all I have. And I, again, want to buy as little new as possible. Airbrush paint is like rich acrylic paint, but it has the consistency of like a smoothie, a very smooth smoothie. So yeah, I ended up with this deliciously smooth paint, and I gotta be honest, this first coat was looking pretty even. I don't think it needs a second coat. Since I went through all that effort to stain the damn thing, I may as well show through some of that wood grain. Then I moved on to the more orangey layers, and I thought, maybe I'll deliberately water down the paint a bit so like some of that wood grain would show a bit through. And this took a little bit of concentration because it was incredibly drippy. Then I mixed up an in-between colour in a repurposed yogurt pot, I'll have you know. And this was more like a milk chocolatey colour, and that would fill out some of the bottom and then the rest of the top. The final section was the big grey bit in the middle. Now, gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of grey as a colour in general. I find it very boring. But I thought, I could at least make it warmer in tone and give it a little bit of twinkle by using the metallic airbrush paint. And it took a while to get the right colour. The amount of times I had to say to myself, nah, that needs more brass. I was alternating between brass and brass that it was just not sounding like a word anymore. Final touch. I mixed up a lighter warm grey streak and painted that on, and I was done. I was well impressed with my work, not gonna lie. Took me a while to focus, but once I knew what I needed to do, I got so much done, and I actually really enjoyed it. I wonder if I'll be this productive tomorrow. Day 4, and this was technically 2 separate half days, but I'm going to stitch them together. It just makes sense, okay? Part 1. So I've been trying my best to get out first thing in the morning for a walk with Kepler. And if you haven't met Kepler before, prepare to be extra delighted by my sweet baby boy. Come for the art and Jamie's yapping about how important community is, but stay for the cute pomski. Anyway, today was gonna be another one of those days where I started out so strong, but as I started working, I was just plagued with indecision. And when I'm indecisive, the gears kind of grind to a halt, and my brain is just like, huh? I was on to making the clay grass top, and I was just plagued by a lot of doubt with it. I managed to figure out what the problem was once I took some time to reflect. See, I was thinking, how am I going to store this clay sheet, essentially? If I wanted to swap it out with each season, it's going to be kind of fragile. Once I'd weighed that up, I was like, okay, maybe we should go back to that OG plan, which was the felt. But wait, I don't have the right felt color. Oh no. Checkmate, you dingbat. But after some further thinking, I just decided, look, just take some form of action that's going to be better than none, even if I end up being wrong. So my solution was to just mix up a similar colour to the autumnal grass and just slap that paint on, see what happens. Sure, it might end up having a little bit more of a crispy feeling, but it's not like I'm going to be fondling the top of this box on the regular, so it should be fine. When I got home after that half day, I felt like I hadn't achieved all that much, so I ripped up a load of cardboard that I'd been meaning to recycle since I'd moved in. I found that doing a task that will make your immediate environment a bit better makes a bit of a difference. Also, Kepler goes absolutely bananas for cardboard, and I took 20 minutes just to play with him. I made a tunnel that we both got a lot of joy out of, and, you can always count on your dog's joy to make you feel less shitty. Part 2, the other half of the day. Now that I've made that fuck it, we're doing felt executive decision, I returned to my clubhouse to finish the job. Now, the task at hand was wrapping my brain around the best way to get these triangles on, because I thought it would be a fool to consider individually painting them on. So I hit a blank sheet of paper running, and an idea struck. what if I made some little triangle stamps? Then I remembered I had a load of foam sheet left over from a previous project, which, fun bit of trivia, made the lettering on this here Mystery Shack sign that I made. I'm so sorry you're still on the floor, baby. You deserve much better. I decided to go with my first idea, which was to make 3 individual stamps, one for each variation of colour. So I got chopping, fetched my trusty, crusty glue gun. Once that glue gun had finally heated up, I assembled these stamps. Then I mixed up 3 colour variations to try and match the autumnal grass triangles. The colours are a little bit off, but you know, they're close enough, baby! Finally, it was time to get stamping. So, many stamps. This took a lot longer than I anticipated, because in my head I was just like, it's just stamping triangles, baby. How long could it take? Turns out, a lot longer than I thought. But it was okay, because I had some Curtis Connor to catch up on. Also, triangles are clearly the best shape, but, you know, I love the fact that in previous Animal Crossing games, the patterns on the grass were randomly coded. Okay, yeah, the snow is a circle, but in New Leaf, they had 3 variations that you could have, and you could have starry snow. Oh my god! Starry snow! The snow, it excites me so. Anyway, the felt grass was finally stamped. It was done. And it was late, so I was ready to go home. Look at that waggy tail! And that disgusting grey carpet that I can't wait to fucking rip up once I can afford to do it, my god! Day 5. This was also split into 2 halves. 2 days until the deadline! I was starting to worry that I was not gonna get another project finished at this rate, but hey, I'm doing my best, and my best is winging a lot of this. I should say more accommodating for myself and my brain as I go. I made sure I was looking cute today because I was gonna be tackling sculpting and painting the fossils. Not gonna lie, I was well excited for this part. I love sculpting and I haven't indulged in it in a good while. I returned to my clubhouse, set up my workstation and got straight to it. The clay I'm using here is called Super Sculpey, and it's the kind of clay that stays malleable until you bake it, and then it sets pretty hard once it's cooled. I have no idea why it took me so long to buy some proper sculpting tools. These got everything so much smoother than the tools I used to have. Definitely a worthy investment. Made it a priority to have a stretch break to keep the chronic pain at bay. And I was so excited. These were gonna look so good. I made sure to test out a piece of clay roughly the same thickness because the temperature markers, or any of the markers on any of the dials on the oven we have at the members club, for some reason have been completely obliterated. So I wanted to make sure that the setting that looked like 135 degrees Celsius wouldn't burn my clay to a crisp. That actually has happened to me in the past when I first tried oven-baked clay, and it put me off for many, many years. That's what you get when you're in student accommodation and the oven basically is only off or on 220 degrees or nothing at all. So I let that bake for 15 minutes and did even more stretching while I was waiting. Crunchiness, begone! If you've been sitting in the same position for a while, this is your sign to do some stretching. Anyway, that bit of clay came out fine, so I had the green light to finish off the rest, and look at my star, look at how it shines, and oh my god, what a glow up. Now watch me shell out. Behold, my pretties, they are complete. Now, time to go get cooked. While I was waiting, I had a go at chopping up some of the grass with just a standard scissors to give it those iconic Animal Crossing tufts, but before I knew it, I got interrupted because my fossils needed excavating from the oven. I let them cool, and then it was time to chuck on a base layer of colour. I mixed up a nice warm neutral colour with a bit of metallic shine for pop, and whilst I was waiting for those layers to dry, I added some more rocky detail to the outside of the drawers. I just used the back of my brush for this one because it made a good enough round shape. As the darkness crept in, I continued working whilst joining in with one of the events hosted at our members club. This was Nos an Cymraeg, which means Welsh Night. In Welsh. Oh yeah, I'm Welsh, and I'm trying to speak a lot more Welsh these days because our language is fucking sick. I find it ever so funny that schools in England will teach kids other European languages, but not their fucking neighbour's language. Anyway, I'm gonna play some clips because I think it's mega cool to share our culture and languages with each other. Because diversity is the spice of life after all.
Anffodus iawn, tro cyntaf. Ond ti di neud e nawr, mae pawb yn dod off y beic nhw.
Sy'n beicio, o'r ail waith yn mas o'r beic, yn ôl dros.
And yeah, I definitely want to make a video about Wales in future and our language. I think it's important and, well, it's my channel and I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. Now, take this as a note to never, ever call me English ever again. Diolch. Anyway, my work was done, I was pleased but tired, and I headed home. Day 5, part 2. I had some stuff to do in town that morning, so I swung by the library to check out some books on embroidery, because if I was to have any hope of squeezing in that second project, I needed to read up on those stitching techniques and fast. I got back to my clubhouse, and I caught up with a few friends and then got straight to work. Now I needed to add some shading to the creases on the fossils. In hindsight, I might have been better if I had worked from dark to light, but hey, I still made it work by dry brushing into the creases and blending it outwards. Anyway, I put on the Star Stable soundtrack, and it actually made me really emotional. It's whimsical, but also really melancholic. Like, if reminiscing over fond memories of a long-gone childhood adventure had a sound, it would sound like this to me. Okay, enough of me being emotional over a fucking horse game. The fossils were complete, and it was time to stick 'em on. I love it when a plan comes together, because before I knew it, it was complete, and I was so goddamn impressed with how this turned out. I felt a load of relief too, because I still had like a day and a half to try and finish the other project, but you know, this main one was done. Excellent work, me. But there was little time to rest, because it was embroidery time. Day 6. Yes, this footage is a continuation of the previous day, but this will make sense. After my 5-minute celebration of completing one of the projects, I hit the ground running with the embroidery. I'd watched a video the previous night showing some basic techniques, and I decided that I should probably stick to some basic stitches, like a straight stitch and a back stitch to keep this simple. This was my first time doing embroidery properly, after all, but I was like, hell yeah, I can get this done in time. I can complete project number 2. Yeah, okay, let's see how that pans out. I look back at my board and picked some of the fish, and I started sketching out my own take on them, trying to keep them really simple and graphic in shape. Again, this is something I miss from Animal Crossing. I feel like the fish are increasingly looking more and more realistic, and I miss the janky ass looking low poly freak. But yeah, also I did use the menu inventory or encyclopedia icons instead, because I think it's really interesting how the design team captured so much character into such condensed little guys. The embroidery itself was something I was actually really enjoying. It was kind of therapeutic, but I was getting pretty concerned that I wasn't going to finish this in time, but I wasn't about to drop out just yet. I had to call it a day there, but I came back for another half to continue with my stitching. I was making progress. And yeah, there were some bits that weren't looking as pretty as others, but that's to be expected when you've never really embroidered anything properly before. And at the end of the day, the point of these projects is just to get me trying new things and messing about. Though, as the evening crept in and I chugged my delicious Welsh ale, I was having to wrestle with the realization that embroidery was fun. But it was gonna be really unrealistic to expect me to bash out not only another 4 fish back and front in one more day when I've only just figured out how to make my stitch lines not look completely trash. So I called it a night there, and I was gonna have to decide what I was gonna do tomorrow. Day 6.5. I got 2 words for you. Oh no.
So my morning has been disrupted because I stabbed directly into my finger. I almost fucking passed out. Oh god, it's a deep throbbing pain.
Well, I just went and fucked up my entire plans for that day and the next few days, because that morning, an avocado sent me to the minor injuries unit. I was okay, they glued my finger back together and patched me up, but now I don't have any sensation in the tip of that finger, and as I'm writing this script, it has still not come back. Not very yeehaw at all, folks. Not very yeehaw at all. Day 7. This is also going to be in 2 parts, sorry about that. The final day, it had arrived, and I was feeling considerably more chipper. You know, in my time off, I'd formed a new plan to get this second project, the hanging fish, done in one, albeit long, day. Sometimes you gotta face the facts, and the facts were clear. I was not going to be able to get 5 fish embroidered in one day, but you know, what I could do was work with the skills I already had a proficiency in. Yep, we're hopping back on the sculpting train, baby! Top tip for warming up your clay: administer directly to the armpit or neck. That's where my heat likes to hang out. I cut all my sketches out, rolled out some Super Sculpey, and cut around my fishy shapes. Then I dented and smoothed the edges a bit so, you know, these shapes had a more wood-carved kind of blocky look to them. I also had to take into account that these were going to be suspended on a string with beads. Now, I had an idea of how to do that, so I did a quick Goog to check that Super Sculpey could be baked with metal in it, you know, so I don't get any surprises and they get, like, explodes or some shit. And hell yeah, we were good on that front, so I submerged some metal rings into the tops and bottoms of the fish, giving the heavier ones, you know, 2 to give it a little bit more stability, and we'll see how that works out, because it was time for those bad boys to get baked. And with the amount of baking I've been doing, I'm starting to consider, like, is this a cooking show now? Does this count? I slapped on some base layers of paint, and I was going to have to take a break and come back for the final day because I had some other priorities going on. Day 7 part 2, the final part. Oh my god. I got up and I was feeling extra bad boy today. Yeah, I dusted off my biker jacket and then I unfortunately had to retract that fashion statement because the weather was too guile, as we would say in Cymraeg. That means bad. The weather, bad weather. No, you made me get my boring ass waterproof. Oh, fine, whatever. At least I'm dryish. I travel back to my not-for-profit, community-owned members club and got straight to painting. Originally, I was thinking of doing a variety of colours of fish, but I looked at my boards again and I remembered that I do actually like a simple uniform colour palette. So I just thought I'll just pick one. Now, I'm a big fan of orange and red, you know, it has so much warmth and energy, and I want that vibe to seep into my soul every time I look at these weird little guys hanging in my window when I make my cuppa in the morning. I grabbed a felt pen and sketched out some of the details and form back onto my fish, and now that I knew where I needed to put the paint, I used that orange wall paint to serve as the block body colour, and it was starting to feel like it was coming together. Then, for the details, I wanted to go in with a darker colour, and I wanted to use red for this, and this is where things go a little bit sideways again. You see, I didn't have any bright red acrylic paint, but there was a little bit of red ink knocking about, so I thought if I mixed that into the orange wall emulsion, then it would still work like paint, but what I found was that when it dried, it had this, glossy sheen to it, like it was still wet. And then if you were to get it wet, the ink would start bleeding out. So I didn't want my fish to bleed. That doesn't exactly radiate happy energy. I was going to need some red paint to complete this project. So I asked some of my friends that were also working at the community space that day if they could recommend somewhere local, and lo and behold, there was literally a paint shop a few streets away. So I threw on my coat and set off to investigate. You know, I'm really glad I didn't have any red paint, because without that happening, I wouldn't have experienced the delight of exploring this little local treasure trove. Plus, I got to yap with the local shop owner, and I learned that this shop had been running for 65 years. We chatted a bit about my project, about him and his business, and our collective worries for the disappearing of local independent shops. Oh my god, look at that excitement on my face opening up that colour called Firestarter.
That paint is so orange. It's so vibrant.
That's such cool.
I got 2 reds because I got that one anyway because I was like, I might want to paint my cupboards that colour.
That's so the most orangest thing.
It's it's electric red.
Yeah, this is wall emulsion paint again. It's not artist acrylics, but hey, look, if it works, it works. Goes to show, you don't need fancy artist paints, you can just do the best with what you have access to. And if that doesn't work, cool, you've learned something, and you can take that knowledge and try it a different way in future.
Oh, thank you.
Can't get that on the camera.
You're going to be in my video serving my pie.
Oh, Your Majesty. Your Majesty. Majesty's for everybody.
Thank you.
You know, you've really made it in life when your friend delivers you a hot pie directly to your desk and calls you your majesty. We are all each other's majesties, you know? I initially painted all the eyes in red, but they didn't quite pop enough for my liking, so I went back in with a muted dark purple to get that contrast back in. I was honestly giggling to myself once these are done. I made these, and they're so cute. The feeling of achievement was really sparkling within me. Now we were at the final task. String and beads! String and beads, baby! The only thread I had was Crystal Tech, and I don't know if you're familiar what that is, but it is. Strong, durable, non-fraying cord with great elasticity and resilience. It's used in a lot of beaded jewelry, and I've never worked with it before, so no surprise, I had to actually look up how to secure a knot with it. Every time I tried, it kept coming undone, but after looking it up, turns out the trick was just to pull it ridiculously tight. I thought if I pulled it that tight, it was gonna fucking snap, but no, resilience and elasticity reign supreme here. Though, if I could be honest, I might have gotten all of this done a little bit quicker if I'd used thin wire instead. Working with elastic material was quite the challenge in this case, but hey, I'm probably going to be able to give this bad boy a little tug and a little bounce and a little jingle jangle, and that'll be nice. Now, I don't get loads of light through my small windows in my flat, so I thought, wouldn't it be nice if the light could at least pass through the beads and for it to seem a little bit twinkly? Of course, I added some bells here and there as I went, and before I knew it, the entire piece was finished, and I was so thrilled. Look at that joy. Look at that joy on my face. So jingly, I knew this was really going to brighten up my kitchen. And also, I know, you want to know, right? Does it bounce? Yes, it fucking does.
Looking forward to like whenever I'm sad, I can just like give it a little tug and it's got little bells. Fucking love bells.
Oh my god, it really adds a lot of character and uniqueness to my kitchen. Yeah, it is absolutely delightful. Every time I look at these pieces, I'm just gonna feel really proud that I went out and tried to make something. I problem solved, I focused on having fun, and I also made connections in the process. And I did a load of things that aligned a load more with the values I have today. And there it is. I did it. This is the epitome of good vibes. And I'm really proud that I gave this my all. Final reflections. And with that, my 7 days of focused creating time came to a close. But Jamie, what about that third project? You telling me you're just gonna quit? If by quitter you mean respecting one's own personal project boundaries, then yes, I am a quitter. I massively underestimated how long all of this would take. This isn't a sentiment I'm unfamiliar with. It's an everyday battle with my ADHD, and time blindness plays a big role in that. But by documenting a project like this, especially since it was focused on stuff I was actively enjoying, it's made me realize that even if I'm enjoying something, I should really make more realistic outlines of how long things should take. This project really helped shine a light in a way that my brain finds a lot more tangible than just expecting myself to do better, whatever that means. I think I've also been so used to setting my productivity expectations always at 100%, if not 110% sometimes, which is completely unsustainable. Working to that expectation of productivity also doesn't take into account that you are absolutely not going to feel like you can do 100% each day, and you shouldn't have to. I think because I enjoy a lot of aspects of projects like this, it can blur the line between work, rest, and play. But I really did learn the hard way from this project that, yeah, you can be enjoying work and be giving it your all, but you don't have infinite energy. Trying to get so much done in a week and being fortunate enough to have long periods of hyper-focus in this project, it also meant that I was feeling pretty exhausted by the time the evening came around. And I think deep down, I kind of knew this was going to be the outcome. But I really wanted to show it to myself by doing, because that's how I learn best. So no, I may not have been able to complete all 3 projects, but that's fine by me. I created 2 delightful pieces of home deco that challenged me, it got me out interacting with the world around me, and it helped me learn loads more about how I tick. But hey, if you want to see me make some cute coasters and dive into that 3rd project at some point, let me know in the comments. Maybe we could even work together to make a community designed coaster in that future video. Huh? If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up for the algo. I would love to continue making shit like this for as long as I'm able, and you can help make that happen by telling YouTube, yes, I want more of this content. I'm so incredibly excited to start this new chapter on YouTube, with values like joy, compassion, and connection shaping and driving everything I do. So yeah, I've got so much more to give, and I hope you're gonna stick around to see it.
My final remarks are get your avocados out with a spoon from now on, because I still don't have feeling in this finger. Makes my wast movements quite difficult.